What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Brandon Lester Fishing. Man, I just got back from 2 weeks wrapping up the Bassmaster Elite Series season. Finished 11th on Lake Champlain, finished 13th on the St. Lawrence River, and 18th in Angler of the Year points for the season. Qualify for the Classic next year. So been a successful season on the bass tour, but man, I'm ready to do some crappie fishing. I'm out here this morning. I actually needed a hoodie when I left the house this morning. It was probably down close to high 50s this morning. I don't know exactly what the temperature was, but starting to feel just a little hint of fall coming on. I know we still got some hot weather certainly left, but let's get out here. I hadn't been on this lake in probably close to a month crappie fishing, so they may have moved around a little bit. The water's got a little bit of color to it, but let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can find some and catch some. Y'all stay tuned. There he is. That's crappie too. Just had to get it in them, that's all it was. I'll show y'all what I'm looking at right here in just a second. Let's get this fish in here. First one of the morning, a good keeper. Black nose crappie. That's a pretty one. Perfect eating size. We're gonna keep us a limit of them today. Hadn't had any fresh crappie for a while, so we're gonna go straight home and straight to the filleting table and straight to the frying pan tonight. But let me show y'all what I'm looking at, and I got something new I want to show you guys here too. So I've been running my active target the past couple of years on a HDS Pro 12. I went to a 16 in this last tournament. Look at the detail on this 16, man. It's pretty darn impressive. You can see that brush pile right there, and those big old blobs are the crappie. Now all this little stuff right here is the bluegill. That right in there, that's where your crappie are. Let's get back in there and get us another one. There we go. Felt that one thump it. Thump. Just a little bit slow this morning, but that's all right. We'll get them. Another good little keeper. About a 10 3/4 inch crappie. All right, y'all, I was getting a whole bunch of follows, so I put on a different color here. I'm gonna throw a different color in there. Don't ever leave a school of crappie without throwing them a different color, just to see. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. Sometimes the school of crappie is just inactive and they just don't really want to bite at that particular time. You may need to come back later or whatever. But I don't ever like to leave a school without at least showing them two different colors. There we go. There's a good crappie. I had to drop it on that one's head and get him to bite. I changed that color. We got us one, but these fish are skinny in this school right now. These son of guns need to eat. It won't be long they'll be putting on that big old winter feed sack though. He still got some good fillets on him. I got my first couple of bites on that chartreuse head with the more natural color trout magnet. And I figured this water's got just a little bit of color to it. I figured I'd try something just different, brighter. This one's kind of pinkish on bottom and sort of purplish on top. I don't know what they call that color, but I've caught quite a few crappie on it. It's a good little color. Just wanted to try something different. I put it in there, sure enough we got one on it. That there might be a keeper. We'll check him. Found a spot here that's got a bunch on it, but ain't got a lot of big ones. He's 10 1/4. He's a keeper. Throw him in there and I'll show y'all what I'm looking at right here. There's a lot of fish here. Drifted up on top of them a little bit, but that's okay. You can see them all. It's a big brush pile, that's what it is. And there's a few bluegill in there, but there's a big wad of crappie sitting right there, and there's some right down in here in the main part of the brush pile too. I'm just casting my jig in there. I'm watching it go down into them, reeling it through them pretty slow. Here they come. There we go. I believe this one's gonna be a little short here. A lot of small fish in this school for some reason. That joker followed it way on up here. That's a big crappie too. I knew there's some big crappie in that school somewhere. That son of a gun followed it way on up here. That's more like what we're looking for right there. Look at there. Nice big old slab. That's what we're talking about. I knew there was some big ones in there. I can see them on active target. They just smart. Them big son of a guns are just smart now, I'm telling you. My jig ain't the first jig they've seen. They have played the game before and they know what's going on. There's a little bitty one. Now look at that. I threw in there and caught a dang 14 incher and then threw in there and caught a 6 incher. Isn't that crazy? That's summertime crappie fishing for you. In the wintertime, you don't catch as many of them little bitty ones, but this time of year, you'll see them. And I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing to be catching them small crappie. It means you got some up-and-comers for the next few seasons. There's another one. Feels like another little guy. Now here comes the school of crappie, the big ones, back into the school. Y'all check this out. This is pretty neat. See them coming right here on the bottom. When I caught that big one, it kind of spooked that school of big ones, and now they're gonna come right back in there and sit right back up on that brush pile. And if you look right out here, we got a big ball of bait fish coming into that pile too. Pretty amazing if you'll pay attention to that active target, what all it'll show you what's going on down there. There we go. It's another one of them good ones. He's up there and jump like he's a bass or something. It's funny, it's like there's two different schools of fish in there. You get it in one spot in that pile, and there's this school of big ones sitting in there. That's a good crappie right there. And then a certain spot in that school, little bitty ones. I broke off my natural color bait and I had that little purple looking bait tied on, put it in there, and I've caught a couple just back to back on them. Very important. Show them something different, change them colors up. Makes a big difference. Really big difference. I'm gonna go through my entire setup here for y'all because I didn't do it start to finish. Talked about the bait a little bit, but I hadn't talked about everything else. I'm using the Right now I'm using the 6'6" Mustad detector rod. These are some great little rods. I've got a lot of good feedback about them. A lot of people have went and bought these rods and they really like them. I'll link them all in the description like I've been doing in all my videos. I'm using the, got a fish on me here. Right now I'm using a 2500 size Daiwa reel. I've got 7-pound vicious panfish braid tied to about a 6-foot leader, a 4-pound vicious 100% fluorocarbon that's tied with a double uni knot. I got a 1/64 ounce trout magnet jig head with a little trout magnet on there tied with a loop knot, and then about 14 inches up the line I got a number 4 split shot. Simple little rig. Man, I catch a ton of crappie on it. It's very, very effective. And you know, there's times when I use just a jig head, there's times when I use double jig rigs. I play around with lots of different stuff, but day in and day out I can get crappie about this rig anywhere I go. It's just all about finding the right color and the right spot on any given day. There's a crappie. Might be a keeper. Yeah, he'll keep. I made a few casts without getting a bite right there. And I noticed what happened. Those fish had slid up in the water column. About 12, 14 feet deep right there. And those fish were only sitting about 5 feet. Something else, if you let your bait go below a crappie, or a bass, either one for that matter, they're out. They don't want no part of it. Game fish, most of your game fish like to feed up. Now a bass will eat off the bottom a lot more than a crappie will, but for the most part, if you ever let your bait go below a crappie, you're pretty much done for. You want to keep that bait above their head if you possibly can. Make them come up for it, because that's the way they're used to feeding. I missed a fish right there. See, those fish are only sitting about 5 feet down in 15 feet of water. All right, everybody, that is gonna wrap it up for today, man. Another fun day out here. Not super hot. It's plenty hot enough, but it's not super hot out here. And it's been a dang good day. It didn't take me long to get me a limit today. I had to work for them. I had to find them. They had moved around a little bit. These crappie definitely move a lot more this time of the year than they do later on in the fall and in the winter when it gets colder. But I think they're following the bait around. They're following all that stuff that they're feeding on around, and I'm sure a lot of the fish are still feeding at night right now because the water temperature is still up there about 83 degrees. So it's still plenty hot, but you can definitely catch some crappie if you put your time in and look for them. So appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you watching. Leave me a comment. Let me know, have y'all been catching any crappie? I'd love to know if you have, if it's slow in your area or if they're biting pretty good. But appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you next time right here, Brandon Lester Fishing.